While hundreds of people gathered in Beirut as part of a wave of protests that has swept Lebanon since the last 3 months. Now, tear gas engulfed central Beirut as security forces chased protesters near the Lebanese parliament. This was a second straight night of clashes that has left many wounded.
هيك لازم هيدا بهون بلشت نحاربهم للاخر اكيد نحن ما حنفل اللي هن يستسلموا هن اللي ناهبين البلد هن الحساريين وهن اللي وصلونا لهون مش نحن شعب بدنا حقوقنا لا عنا مطالب ولا طالبين منهم شيء منهم هول حقوقنا هن عم يسلبوها منا.
Many government properties were set on fire by protesters. Authorities deployed armed soldiers who used water cannons and fired rubber bullets to disperse the protesters who pelted them with stones. This led to hours of street confrontations. Beirut is witnessing some of the worst clashes since the demonstrations began. The protests erupted in October for a build-up of anger at the rising cost of living, new tax plans, and a political class that has overseen decades of corruption. This comes only 3 days since the consultations between the president and the parliamentary blocs began to name the prime minister. While Saad al-Hariri is expected to be named, the political rifts are set to hinder the new government formation. Hariri is a Western ally and a pro-establishment politician. He quit as the prime minister in October after mounting pressure from protesters. People in Lebanon have been calling for a new government which is unaffiliated with the established political parties. Our West Asia Bureau Chief Daniele Pagani is now joining us live for the latest on the protests in Lebanon. And well, Daniele, it seems the talks are deadlocked. Dozens have been injured in the fresh round of protests, and Hariri has asked for more consultations despite the fact that protesters have said we need a change in the establishment.
Absolutely, yes, the situation is in a very dangerous deadlock. The thing is that there is no other politician other than former Prime Minister Hariri, who wants actually to take the burden of leading Lebanon throughout this moment. But the protesters do not want any of the members of the previous establishment to take care of the government right now. They would want, as they say, everyone to go home and at least fresh elections. And if there is the need of a caretaking government, they would want technicians. But Lebanon is in a disastrous economic situation. Their GDP to debt to public debt ratio is enormous, and the taxes they're collecting are not enough, and now businessmen have also started to, so to say, strike in paying their taxes. And this is clearly a situation that no politician wants in his hands, so it's really a deadlock, so much so that the president had to move today's talk to Thursday to try to see if at all is possible to convince the protester to give some space or to at least put some negotiations on the table, which have not been there between the establishment, so to say, and the protesters.
All right, Daniel, thanks very much indeed for joining us for the latest on the situation in Lebanon, clearly escalating.